I think that probably the strongest objection is that we just have this layer of fog here. Um, but here's what I have to say to that. So one thing that they point out is Conway's game of life. Conway's game of life is a two-dimensional kind of way of it's a two-dimensional, it's called a zero-player game. Basically, you have a bunch of squares, and the squares either are colored in or not colored in, depending upon certain rules programmed into each cell. They look at their neighbors. If there's too many neighbors, then they die. If there's too few, then they starve. But if there's just right, then they reproduce, basically. That's... Y'all need to research it. It's just really interesting. I'm not going to go too much further into it. But the basic idea is that Conway's
You can find this. Just find this clip in at like what is it? It's like 6:58. You can hear them talking about it if you want to go into this further.
Yeah. And what's really interesting about Conway's game of life is that you can make really complex things in it, and you might be able to actually make like a living organism in Conway's game of life, or you could make a Turing machine. And then like simulate a brain in it, for example. So it seems like that's actually something that would count as a fine-tuned universe if you had Conway's game of life. So what I'm bringing up this as an example because, oh, sorry, I forgot I wanted to talk about this. This is just I found a Conway's game of life game online, and you could feed it with random noise. And if you just feed it with random noise, you get gliders, like self-perpetuating structures just by random chance. Anyways, what Conway's game of life is very interesting. The parameters about when a cell will die or when a cell will starve or when it will overcrowd, that's actually based off of these numbers here, these rules. And standard Conway's game of life is the numbers 2, 3, 3, 3. And what's interesting is that if you vary any of these constants, like you change death by loneliness to get them all threes, then the same kind of noise will just instantly kill everything. The specific generator I found had a very nice random rules button, which is cool because we're talking about randomness to some degree. And what I did is I just fed this noise into different random rules. And what happened was either every cell just got filled up really quickly, or what happened was they all died out really quickly. So what I'm trying to illustrate here is that varying the parameters in Conway's game of life actually will lead to things that are inhospitable to life. Like assuming Conway's game of life that is hospitable to life, that is fine-tuned in some sense, well, there are a bunch of different versions of Conway's game of life with different rules that are not hospitable to life. And I spent way too much time like just playing around with random universes, quote unquote, in Conway's game of life and seeing if you could make anything interesting happen. And it was for all of them like that I came across that was not the original Conway's game of life. You couldn't get anything that would actually allow you to create a computer or like a Turing machine in Conway's game of life. That's not rigorous or anything, but what that leads me to believe is that Conway's game of life, this green dot that's fine-tuned, it's surrounded by some red, by all these epistemically possible like universes with rules that govern it that would not allow you to have any sort of life in it. That's kind of what I'm getting at. This Conway's game of life, yeah, if that is actually a possibility under naturalism, well then so are going to be these other variations of Conway's game of life where you can't have anything interesting going on in them. And if we actually keep searching like these green dots that naturalists point us to and find that they have red like lots of ways to be dead surrounding them, epistemically varied. Let me put it this way. If they have give us green dots, and in these green dots there are universes with constants, and in these other weird universes you have life, but we find that each time a naturalist can give us something like that, we could vary the constants and they're just surrounded by inhospitable universes, then what that's going to make me think is that this is actually how naturalism looks. Naturalism looks like a completely red thing, like a sea of red with just green dots in it, because that's what every time that we get a green dot, we just find swaths of red surrounding it. It seems like to put it simply, every time you introduce into the naturalist probability space a way to be alive, you introduce way more ways to be dead. So, for me at least, I find I'm not convinced by this. There are other or that this objection that there's way more to the probability space that we just haven't checked out. But that's just my particular feelings about it. Essentially, like this is my intuition about it. Why should you trust that? You want something rigorous, right? But how? So I was thinking about how to be rigorous about it, and being rigorous is about this question is actually really hard, because what we essentially need to do to be rigorous about the checking the entire probability space of the naturalism side is look at the set of all possible physical universes, which is like this infinitely large set, where every element of that set is we could represent every possible physical universe as a set of ordered pairs of moments and physical states of that universe to get this whole, I'm going to just call it large P for the set of all possible physical universes, and these little p's represent possible universes, and each possible universe is a set of ordered pairs of moments and states, physical states, to get the set of all possible physical universes. Don't want to repeat myself anymore. Moving on. What I'd essentially have to do to be rigorous is then get a function and define it well so that we could see it will tell us what elements of big P are life permitting, and then compare that to the cardinality of the set of non-life permitting possible physical universes. That's really tough. But one thing I did realize is that there's going to be a lot of chaotic possible physical universes in big P. Like this possible physical universe, I just picked this one at random. In the first moment, we have a physical state that just consists of 4 particles. Then in the next moment, we have a physical state consisting of a line. Then in the next moment, we have a physical state representing a recursive centaur, which is half horse and half recursive centaur. I just found that funny. And then in the last moment, we have a physical state, which is just empty. Like that, given the way we've tried to rigorously define the set of all possible physical universes, that's one universe right here. And it's just chaotic. It does not follow any sort of physical laws. So you can't actually have any fine-tuned life in that. And in the big P, the set of all possible physical universes is going to be dominated by chaotic universes. Because just think about this kind of set here. We have one moment, a line, and it's moving across different sets, different physical states. And then we get to this branching here where it could go in either direction or any of these directions. We're going to have one little p in the big P representing each of these possible directions for it to go. Like, this is going to be one of the little p's, this is going to be a little p, this is going to be a little p, this is going to be a little p. And so what we're going to have is that big P here, its contents are dominated by chaotic universes that don't follow any sort of physical laws, whereas we have at the far end here the actual set of universes that are that are ordered and do follow physical laws. So just to summarize that, in case I wasn't making any sense, I'm trying to be rigorous here to talk about the entire naturalism probability space. So we're talking about every possible way you could have a physical universe. But every possible way you could have a physical universe is going to involve a lot of chaotic universes where just stuff randomly happening. As long as the stuff that randomly happens is physical, it's still a physical universe. So naturalism is going to get dominated by these chaotic universes that don't have any laws governing them.